Can you make air dry clay look just like aged silver? Yes, you can, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it using a simple paint technique. Hi there, my crafty friends, and welcome to my channel. This project uses some simple decoupage techniques as well as some pretty cool air dry clay 3D effects. So if you're ready, let's make a mess. Gizmo, here is your gooey romantic Valentine project, just as you requested. Enjoy, my friend.
Cleaning the glass bottle is important, so paint will bond to the glass. I'm using alcohol wipes to get it clean. Now I'll give the bottle a coat of gesso as a base and let that dry for a couple of hours. Once dry, I'll spray the bottle with some clear matte sealer. This helps the paint bond to the glass so that it won't peel. I have a video that explains that very procedure. You can click the card above to watch it, and I'll also leave a link in my description box below. And then I'll let that dry for about an hour before moving on. You guys tell me in the comments what type of project you'd like to see next. You could be one of my next videos just like Gizmo. I found some really cool wedding fun facts that I'll be sharing with you along the way in this video. I got this gorgeous rice paper from decoupagenapkins.com. They have some beautiful napkins and rice papers. I'll leave a link for you in my description box below. I'm spraying water on the rice paper so it will tear easily for me. It's much easier to blend in a torn edge rather than a blunt cut edge. The largest wedding attendance was a Jewish wedding in Jerusalem in 1993 where 30,000 people attended. The most expensive wedding was the one held in a purpose-built stadium in Dubai for a sheik's son. The wedding cost over $22 million. I tore it a little large deliberately so I'd be able to fit it exactly to size once I got it on the bottle. And I'm using Mod Podge to glue it down. Tuck a sugar cube into your glove. According to Greek culture, the sugar will sweeten your union. The longest wedding dress train was found in Germany, and it measured over 515 feet. I didn't want to lose that beautiful big flower, so I bent it over to the back. I separate the layers of a napkin when decoupaging, and I keep those blank layers because they're good for things like this. I cut off those embossed edges, and I'm using just the center of the napkin. I'm going to stamp on it so it looks like a very old love letter. First I stamped the verbiage and then some roses around the edges to keep with the theme. And I'm not really sure where I even got these stamps. I've had them for so long, but you can buy stamps like this on Amazon. I have a video that shows exactly how to decoupage. If you'd like to check that video out, click the card above, or I'll also leave a link for you in my description box below. I'm using some water to tear the napkin, just like I did the rice paper, except I'm using a water brush and wetting the paper just where I intend to tear it. I'll let that dry for just a few minutes, and then I'll add some ink to the edges to make it look really old. I'm using Tim Holtz Brown Distress ink, but you can use any ink that you'd like. I'm also using a Tim Holtz dauber to apply the ink. I'm going very, very lightly around all the edges. I used brown ink, but I wish I would have used black because I ended up antiquing everything else on this bottle in black. But it still turned out good. I'm going to start decoupaging on the back of this bottle now. I'm using the roses that I separated from my original rice paper picture. I'm spraying it with water and tearing the edges just like I did with the front picture, and gluing with the Mod Podge. Rain on your wedding day is actually considered good luck according to Hindu tradition. For luck, Egyptian women pinch the bride on her wedding day. That sounds a little painful. Peas were thrown at Czech newlyweds instead of rice. A Swedish bride puts a silver coin from her father and a gold coin from her mother in each shoe to ensure that she'll never do without. I'm gluing the love letter above the roses. Since the napkin decoupage is slightly translucent, you can see some of the roses through it. I actually love that look. A Finnish bride traditionally went door to door collecting gifts in a pillowcase accompanied by an older man who represented a long marriage. Now I'll let that dry for about an hour. When it's dry, I'll give it a coat of clear matte sealer to protect my pictures and let that dry for about an hour before moving on. Now I'm going to use some paint to blend the picture with the bottle so you don't see any white spots. I'm going to be mixing several colors so the paint matches the area of the picture I'm working on. A sponge makes the paint easier to blend than a brush. You don't want to see any brush strokes in your finished product. And the coat of gesso I gave the bottle at the beginning, I was using a sponge, and it gave it a slight texture, so it should blend nicely using a sponge. I'm putting the paint on the bottle with a brush, but using the sponge to blend it in. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing from all of you. If you're enjoying and finding some value in this video, please hit that like button for me. Doing so helps my channel to grow and sends this video to more people out there. That way I can continue to bring you awesome tutorials. Thanks for doing that. Moroccan women take a milk bath to purify themselves before their wedding ceremony. And in Holland, a pine tree can be planted outside the newlywed's home as a symbol of fertility and luck. After the paint dried, I gave the bottle a coat of clear, glossy spray sealer. I'm going to be doing some antiquing a little later, and I need a nice, smooth surface so the antiquing medium doesn't grab onto the paint. While that was drying, I started making all my little embellishments. I used a light clay to make some roses, leaves, hearts, and some flourishes, which I'll make look like aged silver. I'm removing the clay from the mold while it's still wet. I'll let it dry overnight and then start painting it tomorrow. I have some great videos coming up in the near future. A wooden spice box set, my beautiful pink lady, and a gorgeous peacock. You'll want to subscribe so you don't miss any of them. The top little hook was so delicate that it broke off of this little heart. I just made a new one and I'll glue it to the back of the heart later on. I'm going to make the keys. I like 2 of them in this mold, so I'm going to make them both, and I'll make my choice once they're dry and unmolded. This key mold is super delicate, so I'm going to use cream paste instead of clay. Cream paste is great for delicate molds. I'm going to put it in the mold and then let it dry overnight. The cream paste is dry now, so I'm going to remove the keys. But before I do that, I'm going to wipe off any of the excess paste from around the perimeter of the key using an alcohol wipe. So it has a nice clean edge and it comes off pretty easily. The long flourishes are too big to be able to glue them on the bottle in one piece. I picked a place on the flourish that it would be unnoticeable when cut, and then snipped it in half. I numbered the pieces 1 and 1 and 2 and 2 so I would know how to put them back together. And then I cleaned up the edges where I cut them a little bit. I'm starting off painting the flourishes, the key, and one of the hearts with some silver paint. Engagement and wedding rings are worn on the fourth finger of the left hand because it was once thought that a vein in that finger led directly to the heart. Diamonds set in gold or silver became popular as betrothal rings among wealthy Venetians toward the end of the 15th century. Snake rings dotted with ruby eyes were popular wedding bands in Victorian England. The coils winding into a circle symbolized eternity. I'm mixing some texture medium with a little of the silver paint, and I'm dabbing it on sporadically here and there, mostly in cracks and crevices. This will help give these pieces a very aged silver look. And I'll let that dry for a couple hours. I'm mixing some Vintage Effect antiquing medium in black with a little bit of water. I'll brush it on and then dab it off with a paper towel. I want it to stay in the cracks and crevices. With this and the texture I added, this will look like a really old corroded metal. I'll let that dry for several hours. Hey you guys, tell me in the comments section what you'd be interested in learning about. All about different types of crackle finishes. There are several different types and each one gives you a completely different outcome. Or all about clays and molds. There are several different types of clay and when should you use which clay? Or if you have something else you'd like me to do a video about, let me know in the comments. And now I'm adding some rub, just on the high parts. This won't go into the cracks and crevices, it'll just highlight all the areas above the cracks. I'm using silver first and then white on top of the silver. This creates such a nice effect. These pieces really look like an aged piece of silver. I'm using several colors to mix the perfect pink for my flowers. I'm using some mauve, some light pink, and white to lighten it up a little bit. Queen Victoria started the Western world's white wedding dress trend in 1840. Before then, brides just simply wore their best dress. I'm painting this one heart a little bit darker pink. I buy 2-ounce plastic containers for saving any leftover paint, just in case.
After painting the roses, I gave them a coat of satin sealer and let them dry for about an hour. I'm going to be doing a double antique on the roses. I'm starting off by mixing some dark pink paint with some water. I'll brush it on and dab it off with a paper towel. And I'll let that dry for a couple of hours. Now I'll add the Vintage Effect Black Antique. Same thing, brush it on, then dab it off. This will add a nice effect. In parts here and there, you'll see the dark pink showing around the black. And I'll let that dry for several hours.
In Japan, white was always the color of choice for bridal ensembles, long before Queen Victoria popularized it in the Western world.
Now I'm adding some white rub to highlight all the high areas and edges on the roses.
In Asia, wearing robes with embroidered cranes symbolizes fidelity for the length of a marriage.
I love the way this large rose turned out. I'm mixing some green paint for the leaves. I'm matching up the color with the leaves on the back picture. I mixed some green, light gray, and a drop of black to get that color. And then I painted each leaf. Now I'm going to highlight the leaves with a really light green, and I'm just dabbing it on here and there, and then I let that dry for about an hour. Now it's time to add the Vintage Effect Black. It will make all the veins in the little leaves stand out. And I'm brushing it on and dabbing it off. I got this beautiful cabinet knob from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to turn it into a really pretty bottle topper. I marked down on the cork how far to paint. The screw is going to be inserted into the cork. It was a little bit too long, so I had my husband cut it off for me. I took the knob apart so I wouldn't have to worry about getting any paint on the glass portion. I'm going to paint the top of the cork and the metal parts of the cabinet knob to match the silver flourishes. Since the parts to the knob were already silver, I just added the textured paint to them. Ancient Greeks and Romans thought the veil protected the bride from evil spirits, and brides have worn veils ever since. I antiqued them and added silver and white rub, then sprayed them with a gloss sealer to protect everything I just did. I let everything dry for about an hour and then I put it back together. I glued the screw into the cork though to make sure it was secure. I just got these pink disposable gloves. Aren't they so cute? I'll leave a link in my favorite tools section for you in my description box, just in case you want to check them out. Every vintage bottle needs a vintage bow. I cut a length of some light pink ribbon, and I'm smearing some of the paint that I used on the bottle on both sides of the ribbon. The something blue in a bridal ensemble symbolizes purity, fidelity, and love. Now I'm squishing it all up in a little ball and tying it with some twine. Then I'll let that sit overnight. Now it's time to put it all together. The first thing I'm doing is removing all the little stir sticks that I put on earlier. I used hot glue so they pop off really easy. I'm gluing the flourishes on first, putting them together the way I marked them earlier. When you put the hot glue on the clay, it softens it up a little bit and makes it slightly flexible again. Only Delight clay does that. It can't be done with any other air dry clays that I know of. The tradition of a wedding cake comes from ancient Rome, where revelers broke a loaf of bread over the bride's head for fertility's sake. And now it's time for the rest of the beautiful embellishments. The custom of tiered cakes emerged from a game where the bride and groom attempted to kiss each other over an ever higher cake without knocking it over. And of course, she needs a rose in her hair. I'm adding that beautiful large rose to the back of the bottle. It looks so nice with the rest of the roses that are on the rice paper. I'm also adding the dark pink heart and the key to the back.
I'm using a Shore Bonder cordless glue gun. I absolutely love this glue gun. It's so nice to work without fighting a cord that's in your way all the time. I have this listed in my favorite tools section in my description box below, in case you want to check it out.
I have a few gaps between the bottle and the flourishes where it didn't glue properly, so I'm filling them in with the mixture of texture medium and silver paint. Once I antique the bottle, which will be our next step, you'll never be able to tell I added that. And I'll let that dry for a couple of hours. Queen Victoria's wedding cake weighed a whopping 300 pounds. I'm using the Vintage Effect Black to go around all the embellishments. I'm brushing it on and wiping it off. This time I didn't water down the antiquing medium. I wanted it to be a little darker for a nice effect. The antiquing will stay in the cracks and crevices between the embellishments and the bottle, making everything stand out and look aged. Any small areas that I'm having trouble getting into, I'm using a Q-tip. I let that dry for a couple of hours and then sprayed the entire bottle with a clear matte spray finish. I wanted this project to have a soft look to it. I let that dry for about an hour before moving on. Because I used the matte spray sealer, I'm adding a little more of the white rub to all the silver embellishments. They just need a little extra luster now. In the center of this silver heart, I'm adding some mica flakes. I'm using some glossy clear varnish as my glue. I'm giving only the flowers and leaves a coat of brush-on clear varnish, so they look a little different from the background of the bottle. I'm unwrapping my ball of ribbon and it looks all wrinkled and vintage. Perfect. I'm adding a little silver and white rub to the ribbon. I found these gorgeous pink teardrop stones in the bridal department at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to add a few of them just here and there because they're so pretty. I had made a thinner ribbon also, but I just didn't like the way it turned out. So I took it off and I just left the one. I'll be putting together a kit for this project. Give me about 24 hours and it'll become available in my Etsy shop. The kits can be customized to include additional items if needed. You'll just need to message me through either Etsy or YouTube. The link to my Etsy shop is in my description box. I put together a playlist of some other tutorials you may enjoy. Click the picture on the right to be taken directly to that playlist. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos.